I'm WG, we just had the big Season 1 showcase stream and I'll be summarizing everything that happened during that stream, as well as already giving you the most important thing that every one of you is wondering: when is the maintenance? So the maintenance moving into Season 1 is going to start at 1 UTC, put it into a time zone converter to convert it to your local time, and it's going to be expected to last for 5 hours, ending at 6 UTC. So for example, for me personally, European, it is gonna be 7 AM in the morning on Wednesday, the 12th. So first off, for some of you enjoyers, this is the Yuki home screen, and that's enough of that. So here we have the Yuki cards, and it already shows us Yuki's basic potential. Yuki's basic potential means that now her 1 cost card can go down to 0 cost should you draw it with an ability, which only excludes drawing it at the start of your turn, or the Rapid Slash, which is a 2 cost single target hit that is going to get plus 30% damage should it be drawn through an ability. So that is her basic attack potential. Next up we have Yuki's card engine, the prepare to subdue skill that at base form costs you nothing, draws you an attack card of this unit and increases the damage amount of that card by 20%, still left to be seen if it's additive or multiplicative, meaning basically what you need to know: if it's additive it's less, if it's multiplicative it's a bigger damage bonus. Now we have the epiphanies, you've already seen them before, but just for the sake of full completeness we'll talk about all of them in one right here. So on the left you have the, or I guess I just move myself with it just so it makes a bit more sense. So first off you have the ability to retain, meaning you can play this whenever you want, and it only increases the damage by 40% rather than 20%. That's the only change here. Next up, it draws you 1 attack card of the unit, but also it further increases the damage by 20% for all of these units' attack cards. Seeing as how it's a 20% multiplier, it is almost safe to assume that this is going to be multiplicative, meaning at, for example, this being a 200% base value, it's going to go up to 240% rather than just 220%. In the middle we have one of her strongest ones, and that's the ability to draw 2 cards instead of 1, combined with the negative of reducing the damage amount, but drawing more cards is always better. Keep in mind, what could also be incredibly important for her is to cut out some of those basic cards, maybe even the basic attack cards, especially the 2 cost one, due to it being single target and quite expensive, and potentially even the 1 cost one. So next up we have the draw 1 unit card plus 20% for 1 turn, and should you draw this card with an inspiration and then activate it, you draw 2 cost. So it's basically, this one draws you 2 without you having to do anything, but gives negative 20. This gives plus 20 and also draws you 2, but you have to have drawn this card through the use of an ability for this effect to trigger. And then here you draw 1 and you draw 1 the turn after. So these 3 are all, yeah, plus 2 variants. These were so far so known. So let's head over into the Flash Slash. Now the Flash Slash is a 2 cost AoE attack that reduces its cost by 1 with inspiration should you draw it with an ability at base. And with the epiphanies from left to right, once again, you have a bigger multiplier, the ability to go down to a 0 cost, the ability to change it into a 2-hitter, the ability to keep it in hand until you want to use it, and then increase the damage by the amount of each drawn card of this unit. So let's say you've drawn 2 other Yuki cards this turn, then this damage is going to go up by 120%. And then here lastly it's a 371%, the highest base multiplier, and whenever it is used it reduces its cost. So the favorites here seem to be either the base version cost, the 2 reduction to 0, the double hitter for 2, or this card at the very end. Now those were all the cards we've known before. Now we come to the interesting cards that have just been revealed in this stream, like the Trickery Strike at base value. Let's see if we can actually make our way properly to it, and that is one sec. And that is its 180% damage retain, meaning it stays in hand until you use it, and you activate the inspiration effect for 1 random card of this unit in hand. So for example, for any of the cards we've shown prior, you're going to get the same effect as if you had drawn the card. So that is the Trickery Strike at base. Now at the upgrade we have again from left to right a increase to the base damage multiplier and the ability to pick the card of this unit that you want to trigger the effect on. Then here the increase in base multiplier, the addition of the retrieve tag, meaning you'll be able to play it once and have it come back to your hand. And then also the fact that this is one random unit, so basically you'll be able to trigger 2 different inspiration effects with this because you're able to play this twice in a turn. Then here we have the change to a skill card that allows you to just trigger all inspiration effects for all cards of this unit in hand, allowing you to more decisively get those inspiration effects, but you lose the fact that it's an attack card. Here then, but that could also be good, meaning that a skill searching for an attack card wouldn't be pulling Trickery Strike anymore. This one deals damage and it draws you a card that has an inspiration effect, and that is pretty important because it is not only going to draw you a card with an inspiration effect, it is also going to trigger said inspiration effect. And then here we have a once again the ability to go for 0 cost. So that means Yuki's basic attack, Yuki's 2 cost, Yuki's Trickery Strike, they all can go down to 0 cost, making her potentially have a very AP efficient build, and obviously 312% base damage multiplier. So that is the Trickery Strike. Then we have the Freezing Blade. So Freezing Blade at base value is a unique card, meaning you can't clone it, and whenever you use a card of this unit that has an inspiration triggered, you do a further 60% AoE damage to all enemies. To top that off, we then have the first upgrade that just increases it from 60 to 90. The next one that adds Outbreak of War. Yes, it says Initiation, they've renamed the term, it is now Outbreak of War. So this one costs you nothing, will always start in your hand at the start of any fight. This one does go to a 130% multiplier. Then important, this is going from AoE to single target, so higher multiplier but less targets hit. Here we have a just straight up increase to the amount of attack cards that deal AoE damage. So for example, her Freezing Blade, her 2 cost blade, basically everything that does AoE damage that she has in her kit is now going to deal 30% more. So a multiplicative damage bonus, most likely. And then at the start of the turn, you activate inspiration for 1 random card of this unit in hand. Is a bit of a meek one. I think this is something you could definitely replicate with just teammates or other abilities. So that is the Freezing Blade, and then lastly you obviously have the Iceberg Cleave, which is her purple card. It cannot get Epiphany, it's the, you could say, identity card, and what it does is it does AoE damage to all enemies. Should this card be drawn by an ability or have its inspiration effect triggered, it turns into a double hitter, and at base you reduce the damage amount by 20%. Then briefly we have the partner here. What the partner says is that the attack cards that have been drawn by the combatant themselves ability have their damage increased by 25%, and in general for the combatant, cards with the inspiration tag or sub tag have their damage increased by 10%. So it is a partner really indeed made for Yuki, but it also means that Yuki has to draw more cards herself rather than having them get drawn by others to make the most of this partner. And then Clue Spotted allows you to take a card from your hand, put it onto the draw pile, and then draw a card of the assigned combatant. This can be used to do some funny shenanigans in regards to season exclusive cards, in regards to Yuki cards going into the deck and then being pulled out again. So that is Westmacott in being a great help in triggering the inspiration. Alright, now something we haven't seen before as well is her ego manifestation. So the first one is going to remove the negative 20% damage modifier from the Iceberg Cleave, turning it into a straight 2-hitter without any drawbacks should it be drawn by an inspiration effect. Then the E2 is, it sounds convoluted, but what it does, simply speaking, is that at the start of the battle, you can trigger the inspiration effect for cards of this unit in your hand. So the only caveat to inspiration is if you draw a card yourself through card draw at the start of your turn, it doesn't trigger inspiration. And this allows the yeah, just allows you to trigger the inspiration of cards that you draw for the first 2 turns. Meaning for the first 2 turns, no matter what, you will be able to trigger the inspiration on your cards, definitely increasing her, you could say, burst potential and the amount of times you can trigger inspirations during a chaos run, because chaos runs fights are usually, besides boss fights and elite encounters, decided anywhere from like the first to like the 4th turn, or even in the hyperspace basin you just have a more powerful start into your first 2 turns. So that is the E2. The E3 increases the ult damages amount. So what the ult does, it takes any, I mean, they probably click on it right here. So yeah. So what the ult does, it does 300% AoE damage and then takes all of the attack cards of Yuki and puts them on the top of the draw pile, and then for whichever how many cards you've put there, you're going to get 80% additional damage. So anywhere from either 1 Yuki card being plus 80 to 10 Yuki cards, if you have a full hand, being 800%. And yeah, that all just depends on how many Yuki cards you have. The base is 250 plus 50% per card moved. Then we have the E4. So the E4 is the start of what you could say the Yuki damage increase epiphanies. And that is, you gain 1 sword dance each time you draw a unit's card. So basically you can think of this as each time you trigger an inspiration, but yeah. You use like a Cassis, you use a Nia, you use a Beryl, you use whatever to draw a Yuki card and you get a stack of Sword Dance. Sword Dance can stack up to 2 times, giving you up to 20% attack card damage. Should be multiplicative, otherwise the damage bonus is maybe a bit too tiny, but who knows. And that one is for 1 turn. Then we have the E5. The E5 just means 6% damage to basic cards, 6% damage to unique cards, 6% damage to neutral cards. And then the E6 is an upgrade to the E4, where you can now stack it up to 3 times, meaning if you draw 3 cards for Yuki, it goes from a 20 to a 45% increased damage multiplier. So we'll have to see if it's additive or multiplicative. Who knows, the devs aren't the best at telling us. Lastly, we just have a bit more Yuki related information, and that is, for example, them explaining that inspiration just excluded from the draw at the start of the turn. So if you draw it from your hand, it's not going to have the inspiration effect. The point 1 is that you want to upkeep the inspiration effect by having a lot of card draw in your deck, and that she's specialized in area damage, which means pairing her with agents who have strong single target damage can make her a complete unit, or you just play AoE planets. Now, these are the 4 teams suggested by the devs. We have a Yuki Nia Veronica, Yuki Nia Beryl, Yuki Nia Cassis, and a Yuki Nia Yukis. So for the first one, increasing the inspiration activation rate refers to the fact that both Nia, Yuki, and also Veronica have the ability to card draw into Yuki cards, triggering the inspiration effect, and then also Veronica can be a sub DPS and Nia can to a degree increase the damage of the team. Then next up we have the kind of the same team, same reasons, but also Beryl. Beryl can once again with her snack also draw more cards, draw into Yuki cards, but Beryl can also provide that crucial single target side of things, with Yuki mainly being focused on the AoE shenanigans. Then here in the middle we have the significant increase in inspiration draw rate due to Cassis being able to deck search, deck shuffle, multi-pull, reshuffle, Nia with her deck search, Yuki with her own card draw. So this is basically one of the highest comps when it comes to the availability and the amount of uptime on inspiration you have. And then here at the bottom we have the, again, Yuki Nia synergy plus a Lucas who is meant to also, be kind of like that AoE unit for Yuki, in that every time you discard a bullet you get the AoE damage. You have the flamethrower for the AoE damage, but then again you could also very well replace Lucas right there with a Khalib. So that is the teams. Alright, so here we have the seasonal screen. For the first week, the Great Rift will be disabled, and this Nebular Distortion unlocks upon you playing the Chaos for the first time. Now, the Chaos is our seasonal exclusive planet, where then the cards and the special events from that are going to get put into the base game or into the base planets. But for now, these events, and these items can only be found on the seasonal planet. Interesting to note here, this seasonal planet is a void planet, so it's not a order planet, it's a void planet, and you can farm through these difficulties, once again going back all the way down to difficulty 10. And you have mutants and nihilium. Nihilium is that god with the whole bunch of mouths being added in. And as you can already see, they've already done some changes to save data value, now referring, instead of it being low, very low, medium, high, and stuff like that, it's now going to be referred to as tiers. Then, as with any new planet, you also have these exploration rewards. So we're going to get some gems, some summons, some units, the ability to unlock a new fate, two new fates, 2 new legendary cards, and 2 gear pieces. And then right here, you actually find out that we have a whole bunch of powerful equipment, and that is, there is going to be, I think it's like 20 plus pieces. We're not going to go through all of them. If you want to, you can pause and read through them if that is something you want to do. But overall, there is a whole bunch of gear pieces that are going to be added, and that's what you need to know for now. So I just quickly continue through those here, just in case if anybody of you wants to know. But it's a bunch of cards that all have like to do with abilities, with pulling cards and the like. So this is so far what we've learned about save data value. You can see it says save data value 6th tier, and there's also a info mark. So there might already be a chance for us to glean more information about how save data actually works, but they did not show what that information mark tab actually shows. Something else that should be very exciting for all of us to some degree is, we all know this amorphous cube item. What it usually says is at the start of the battle plus 15% damage, during the stream it said plus 25% damage, meaning that to some degree certain items could have been buffed, potentially some of them could have been nerfed, so there are some changes made to the gear pieces. To what extent, to how important, we don't know yet, but more of that could be mentioned in the patch notes. Now, the next thing for us to take a look at is the boss fight, the Nebula Distortion. We are going to get 3 different bosses. One boss is going to unlock with each phase, meaning after 3 weeks and the release of Chizuru, we're going to get the next boss. And the way this boss works is it has up to 4 difficulties. It provides you these seasonal resources, which is the currency you can spend in the shop, which is the golden one. And you can play this fight at a higher difficulty, but you also have these distortion modifiers. So distortion modifiers are kind of like buffs or even debuffs to a degree. Basically, you're buffing the boss, and the more you buff the boss, the higher your reward, the better the achievements you can achieve upon beating the run, and potentially even, if this is the mode with the leaderboard, the higher your score on the final leaderboard. And then to unlock some of these distortions, you have to already have beaten a fight with 2 distortions to unlock more, and then you have to beat a fight with 5 distortions. So it's a boss fight that you can make harder for yourself by enabling debuffs. So this is kind of how like this challenge mission thing looks. So this is for difficulty 1, 2, 3, 4, defeating him with X amount of distortions. It's also going to be for multiple of those bosses and the like. And then seasonal based rewards, it's going to be including like stickers and the like. Alright, so now we've made it to the shop. The shop is going to open up in supply instances, meaning that with the release of Yuki we get the first supply, with the release of Chizuru we get the second supply, and with the release of Serenia we get the third supply. For the first supply, you're going to be able to get yourself 5 premium, 5 standard, and 5 fashion summons, each at 1,500 and 1,200 cost respectively. Then we have the ability to buy an undetermined ego crystal, which is kind of like a crown needed for the last like 10 out of the 10, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 of your potentials on your characters, mainly applicable to high DPS characters. You can then buy the Pursuit of Condemnation, which is the weekly item you achieve from the Judas boss. You also have the ability to buy 1 misalignment material or dimensional alignment material thing, which can allow you to craft a piece with a certain substat, like for example a crit damage set necklace. And also what you can see here is there's going to be a weekly free set of 60 stamina every single week in that shop. And then the last one is going to be premium growth materials for all the characters, striker materials, advanced striker materials, traces of memory, so the ability to craft gear pieces, cores of memory, to upgrade either rare pieces to +4 or legendary pieces to +4 and +5, particles of memory just as standard experience, and then some more useful items like combatant experience, like affinity items and partner experience. So that is the supply store. This season will also have a story mode. You can expect something similar to the trauma code experience for Haru, which is most likely going to contain striker enhancement materials, units, level up materials, and everything you need to know you need to use to push up Yuki a bit higher, as well as then obviously some stories, some gems, some summons, and the like. And then to further celebrate the update launch, we're also getting an additional 300 crystals and 200,000 units. And then the last minor changes, they've increased the duration of the trauma code for Haru from ending with her banner to ending until the maintenance starts. And that is everything we now know about Season 1 from that stream. The patch notes are currently being prepared and will be released at a later date. I will make an updated video with the patch notes once they are released.